and how you can improve yourself. But before I begin, I would like to ask you to imagine the sea. Just a very big, huge ocean in front of you, open horizon, wind in your face and the fresh air. And now imagine a very tall ship, those old ancient ships and wide open sails just conquering the wave. And yeah, why don't you think that maybe the sea is actually your life? Yes. So think about it. Instead of how many people imagine life as a path, predetermined path that you have to go, and if you step away, maybe you step into a forest or stumble upon the rock, why don't you think about life as a sea, where you can go anywhere? And then the ship is basically your means of walking through the life, and you're the captain of your own ship. So what does it mean in your life? That means you can go anywhere. You can go to the right, you can go to the left, diagonal, and you can even try to maybe bend the laws of physics and go up into the sky or try to dive underwater. As long as you have the desire, in the sea everything is open for you. Also, just as in the past, many people believed that Earth is flat and it ended up to be round in the end. Many people nowadays think that when we go through our life, we are on the straight path. And when we travel, so our sea voyage, even if we think about it that way, we might think that, okay, so I go from point A to point B. At point A, I will be one person. At point B, I will be another person. So I have different personalities. And mainly our personalities are based on the thoughts that we have at that time. So that would imply that what we think is what we are. And at this very moment, what you are right now is what you were maybe thinking about all day long. But yes, we can imagine this line as the Earth being flat. What I tend to believe is that our personalities are actually more like a spiral. And each line can be one circle on the spiral. So for example, we have point A and point B that are the equivalent to those. So for example, at point A, you maybe have very positive thoughts, something very positive happened in your life, and you express a very open personality. But at point B, something negative happens, and you have negative thoughts, and therefore you might be angry, easily irritated, so you have another personality. But then as you move on forward, something will happen, and you again become very open and happy. And so the thoughts that you will have, which are now on the next level of the spiral, which would mean that your personality, so the personality of A and A dash, is basically a reflection or maybe a mimicry of the same personality, but A dash lies in the higher level. And that means that your views are broadened, you think maybe slightly differently, and then comes the point of self-improvement, which basically means that self-improvement is simply moving from one level to another, higher and higher above. So this is what you would like to maybe achieve in your life with whatever things you do. So how is it possible to actually do this? Because you can't really change your thoughts. They're something very subconscious. You just keep on thinking about one thing based on what you see. For example, tonight we have very different thoughts based on the speakers that speak. So this process is very subconscious, and there's probably nothing you can do. But there are ways that you can maybe employ in order to somehow speed this process up and try to move to a next level in a more guided way. So let's go back to our ship. What is it there in the sea voyage that is dangerous? What would you like to avoid? Exactly, that would be, for example, rocks. You don't want to accidentally crash into a rock, or in the night, for example, you might accidentally stumble on the land that you don't see. So that's what lighthouses were made for. How does it relate to our life? In the life, we usually try to think of a path, a certain road that we want to take. And for example, when it comes to personality, we constantly think who we want to be. But that's not necessarily what we have to do, because we should just let life shape us the way it is. But what we can do is that we can determine who we don't want to be. And that land, that rock that we don't want to accidentally crash into, is what we don't want to be. So what we have to do is we have to build a lighthouse. We have to know where that land is. So what you can do, you can even do this now. You can take out your mobile phones or your papers, and you can just write down one or a few things that you know you don't want to be in your life. It can just be as easy as that, and you will set your lighthouses. So what is, yeah. So what is the next thing to see that you might want? Yeah, you might first think that, okay, when I go on a voyage, I might want a map and a compass. But yeah, you can keep wishing for those because even if life will provide you with a map, it will probably just be a blank paper. And if it will give you a compass, I'm sure 100% that it will be broken. But as you can see from this picture, what you can provide of yourself is a vast view. You can climb on top and just look at what lies ahead of you, what you have behind you. It's not that easy to do in real life, but what you can do with very easy thing that every day, every time, for example, when you have a very interesting conversation, you watch a documentary, or even after tonight, or any other lecture that you visit, you can just take 30 seconds, not more, and write down the main ideas that you want to remember from that evening. So when you look from above, you don't notice the small tiny details that might seem interesting and you think, oh, that would be interesting to remember. But when you look from above, you really notice the main ideas, the most impactful things that you want to remember. And once you stop noticing the tiny details that you think are interesting, and you look at the greater things, that's when you will see that you can manage your life better. So your thoughts don't get so clumbered, and you can see where you have to go next. So just a very simple, the 30-second rule after any informative session will help you to try to see the main ideas. And what is there next in the sea on your journey that you would like to catch? Yes, that can be a whale, but most often that would just be a fairway. You want to move through your life at a greater speed because you want to explore all the different possibilities that there are. You want to find the faraway islands, maybe the hidden gems somewhere. But it's not that easy to catch the wind. Yes, sometimes life can be good to you and provide many opportunities, and all you have to do is just not build the walls, but quite open your sails, and then the wind will carry you. But that doesn't always happen. And most of the time what we do instead, when we have an unfavorable wind, when we don't see many opportunities that we can follow, is we tend to just close down our sails and slow down. Instead, what I suggest to do is not be afraid of trying to turn the unfavorable wind into favorable. And so you just have to find a way how to turn your ship to change the wind. And to do that, you have to learn every day. If you learn from one day, then in 1 year you will have 365 lessons. So what you can do is every night before sleep, you can think back on your day and maybe analyze. This is a lesson I learned from today. Just one lesson. It can be a small phrase, a paragraph, sentence. It depends on you, how much you think you have learned. But once you start doing that, and once it becomes your habit, then you will see that every day will teach you something new. And sometimes we make mistakes, we might not learn from them, and then we keep repeating them. But once we write it down as an idea, once we actually make our thoughts tangible on the paper, then we will not really tend to repeat that mistake, because we will remember somewhere at the back of our minds. So with those lessons in mind, we can move forward without really stopping to think about the same things again, because we have already thought about them and we learned from them. And yeah. So trying to catch the wind is what we should always do, but even the fairest day in the sea can sometimes turn into a storm. And then we're out of balance. We don't know what to do. Most of the time what happens in the storm is that we just give into the fear, the panic, and we just run from one wave to the other in hope that it won't crash us. But what I wanted to show first is this painting. It's a very famous painting called The Ninth Wave by famous Russian artist Vasiljeva. And what it shows here, you know that's visible, but here are some people on the wrecks of the ship, and they are in the middle of the storm. From the picture you can't see whether they will survive or not, but what you can see is the little ray of light shining on them. It doesn't really say whether the storm will end, but it shows that there's something else behind the storm. It means that there is the end of the storm. So once you get into the storm, you shouldn't fight it. You should just learn to live through it, because you have to remember that the storm will pass one day. And if you give in to the panic, if you give in to the storm, you will most probably make wrong decisions, wrong choices. So what instead you have to do is just take a little pause once you feel overwhelmed. Just relax and think through that behind the storm, there is something else. So you just have to go through it. And so taking a pause will always help you to see your way that you have to follow. So to sum up, we have learned 3 lessons here. So the first one was to build your lighthouse, to determine who you do not want to be. And second was to provide yourself with a view. So just looking at the things from above, ignoring the little details and looking at the main things. The third was to learn to catch the wind by learning from each day. So you remember your own thoughts, your own lessons that you provide yourself, just with your own actions. And then fourth is just an important thing to always keep in mind, is to not be afraid, not to give in to emotions when they just flow into you and get you out of balance. All you have to do is calm down, take a little pause, and with these 3 lessons in mind and the idea that storms will pass one day, you will be able to move through the spiral in a more guided, easy way, and you can try to speed up the self-improvement and move on to the highest levels from your personality.